and thank you so much for coming back to Limitless Live. I'm your host, Olga Binyaminov with Exceed Learning Center, and I'm so honored to be here today with such a great topic that I want to cover related to love and relationships. Let's be honest with ourselves. Anger is such a huge part of all of our stories that we tell ourselves and others, and so is blame. It could be in your romantic relationship, it could be with friends, with colleagues, with parents, or even sometimes with ourselves. We've all felt that burn of frustration and that big pull to point fingers. But what if I told you that beneath of all of that heat, there's actually a very powerful invitation? Today's session is inspired by the book that I read, How to Love Someone Without Losing Your Mind. And I hope that will help you shift from emotional reactivity to emotional responsibility. Instead of saying, why did they do this to me? Shift to, what can I do with this now? This is about reclaiming your peace without actually losing your power. So I want to start with the definition of anger. What is really anger? The truth is that anger is not a primary emotion. It's a mask. Underneath that mask, underneath the anger, there's often hurt, there's fear, there is disappointment. And there's this very powerful quote from the book that says, loving someone means accepting that we are all works in progress. We are going to mess up, and so are they. Anger isn't the enemy, it's the alarm. It's what we do with that alarm that actually matters. So let's say your partner or friend ignores your messages. The way you feel is unseen. But instead of expressing that hurt, you lash out. As a result for that, they shut down. And that connection actually get damaged. But what if you pause and just ask, what is this anger trying to tell me? Anger is a messenger. It's not your master. It's not a sign to explode. It's a sign to explore. Now, I did mention blame. Blame is another trap. It feels good for a second to blame someone for something that you are responsible for. It protects your ego, but it also builds walls around our growth. So there's a key to shift your mindset. You may not be responsible for what hurts you, but you are responsible for how you heal from that hurt. Don't lose your mind trying to control others. Focus on how you show up in the relationship. Let's say you keep giving your energy to someone who constantly disappoints you. You blame them for being unreliable. But the deeper question is, why do I keep handling this power? What boundaries do I need to set? The blame says you are the problem. So when you blame that individual, you dump it on them. But if you take ownership and say, here is what I can do differently. I will not take this. I will not tolerate this. And set those boundaries. So where we get stuck most are expectations. Peace comes when we trade expectations for understanding. We say things like, they should know better. Or, I would never do that, so why do they do this? But that mindset keeps us rigid, and relationship needs flexibility. Instead of judging, try asking, what might they be experiencing right now? What part of me needs compassion in this particular moment? You can disagree and you still can stay connected. Curiosity always creates more connections than criticism ever will. So if you just ask, what is really happening to that individual? Instead of blaming and assuming what you think is the real story. Take ownership. Ownership doesn't really mean taking the blame for everything. It just means taking control of how you respond. And yes, sometimes even taking the blame or take the responsibility for something that happened. But really ask yourself, what am I feeling really? What story am I telling myself? How do I want to show up here? You cannot control someone else's behavior, but you can always choose your response. Instead of saying you never listen, say I feel unheard. I need support. Instead of saying they are always selfish, say something like I wasn't clear about what I needed. Maturity is when you stop pointing fingers and you start looking inside, inward, what the real cause is. And there are certain tools that you can use to create that space and to put this in practice. So the first very crucial step is to pause before you react. Really, take 3 breaths, 3 deep breaths. Let the fire settle. And then ask yourself, what is underneath this anger? Why am I so upset? The second step is to reframe your narrative. Instead of blaming and saying they are wrong, he did this, she did that, ask, what is my role in this? What did I do that caused them to do that? Reframing your narrative not only takes ownership, but it also helps you understand to fix what you need to fix in you and not pointing fingers at others. The third thing is compassionate communication. When you are compassionate and you use words like I feel or I need, it actually invites connections instead of creating a conflict. Instead of saying you always do this, you can say I feel this when that is happening. And the fourth step is to let go of rigid views. Don't be stuck on a view. Remember, people are doing the best they can with the awareness that they have. You don't know what you don't know. Assume that the other person doesn't know better. And sometimes that awareness is very limited. But your peace doesn't have to be that. Take a moment to reflect. You can journal, you can write, where in my life am I holding on to blame? What rigid expectations are keeping me stuck? And what would I feel to respond with understanding instead of responding with anger? What action can I take today to move from blame to ownership? Anger is not the enemy. It's an invitation to go deeper, to heal, and to actually grow. Blame keeps us spinning. Ownership sets us free. So next time you feel that heat is rising, do this. Pause, breathe, and then get curious. Ask yourself the relevant questions, or even ask others to clarify what exactly happened. You are not defined by your reactions. You are empowered by your reflections. I hope this resonates with you, and share this with someone who probably needs to hear it today. Feel free to tag me, message me, and let's keep this conversation, the growth, going. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and always exceed your limits.